and this is the one that's out now. But you know, we're going to move along to our, let's see, graphic number 12. We're going to turn our attention to the hardwood, when the garden was Eden.
The glory days.
The glory days, the halcyon days of the Knicks in '69. Harvey, what was your inspiration to write this book?
Well, I grew up with that team as well. I mean, I was at Port Richmond High School. I was a senior when that team won its first championship in 1970. You know, basically weeks from graduation and going to work for the Advance. But so Willis Reed and Walt Frazier were I always loved basketball because, you know, growing up in the projects, we spent a lot of our time down in the courts on Henderson Avenue. So basketball was a big deal for us. I also played a lot at the Jewish Community Center, the old building down on Victory Boulevard.
Victory, right.
And so, you know, I always had this feeling that Willis was the heart and soul of the team, but Frazier was the coolest guy. Oh, so we all wanted to, you know, those of us who were my size.
Vinny, let's go over to G13. He asked for Clyde. We give him Clyde.
Swish it.
It's the power of Harvey Araton. So he was your favorite.
So he was the guy that you tried to imitate. You know, dribbling with your back to the
Pumas, the Puma sneakers.
Clyde Pumas, yes.
Wow.
So, you know, so
plus you were a point guy.
When this book,
there we go. There's Clyde making his move.
Swish an edition.
That looks like a Celtic he's driving.
Yeah, who's he beating over there?
Is that Dave Cowell?
Yeah, it looks like that's pretty good, Harvey. It looks like, yeah. But look at those retro shorts. But anyway, you were saying? So
when the opportunity, when the subject was broached to write a book, my initial reaction was, oh my God, there's been so many books written about these guys. And I was like, you know, do I want to take on a project where there's nothing else to say? But while I was making up my mind, I reread Dave DeBusschere's diary of the '69-70 season called The Open Man. And there was one little paragraph in that book talking about an incident where Cazzie Russell, they were in Detroit practicing, and Russell had gone to Ann Arbor where he'd gone to school at the University of Michigan. And while he was coming back to practice, he was pulled out of his car by state police and held at gunpoint. And it turned out that there was an African-American guy who had broken out of prison in the vicinity. And it was a case of racial profiling. And he came to practice steaming mad and went out on the court and started throwing elbows at a lot of his white teammates. At which point Willis Reed's teammates stepped up and said, "What the heck are you doing?" And before Russell knew what he could edit himself, he basically said, "Shut up, Uncle Tom." Now, this was a man who grown up in the Jim Crow South, Willis Reed, a man with tremendous pride. And DeBusschere kind of wrote it off like, well, Willis said something, you know, like,
having a bad day.
You better shut up or this Uncle Tom will be kicking some butt.
Yeah.
But I thought that was such a fascinating moment that it was worth interviewing all these guys, because I wrote a whole chapter about that incident and called it basically the pivotal point of that team's, not only its championship season, but that team's history. The delicate way and the wonderful way that Willis handled it was worth far more than one paragraph. And it was at that point when I read that paragraph and said, that's it, one paragraph on what seemed to be an incredible, you know, incredibly tense moment. So at that point I said, you know what? The 40 years that have elapsed between then and now provide the opportunity to really create some historical perspective on what happened with that, not only that team, but that entire era. And that's when I decided to do the book. And there was, you know, it turned out that there was a lot more to offer than had previously been written.
Well, the book was very well received also. And Anthony, I know Harvey mentioned Cazzie Russell. You loved Cazzie Russell. Who was your favorite, if you had to pick one? I mean, he used to come off the instant offense. I mean, that was before the microwave, so they didn't use that expression.
Kind of tall and lanky and gangly. I was a Phil Jackson guy.
Wow.
I was kind of like him.
Yeah, that's you know.
There were many lovable characters and fascinating characters who went on to lead very interesting lives.
You know what? We're going to go over to graphic number 14, and this will really surprise you, and it kind of ties into what you said, Anthony. Now, there's the bench, and Harvey, you could see, right? We got DeBusschere, Monroe, Reed, Barnett, We got Brown. That's probably that's the 73 team because we got Monroe there. But holding court, and it looks like he's kind of reading them the riot act, was someone that for whatever reason I kind of was fixated on, and it was Red Holzman. And there was a book, Miracle on 33rd Street. And I don't recall who the author was, do you?
Phil Berger, yes.
Phil Berger, knew he would remember that. And that was a terrific book, and there was one chapter that it was so detailed on defense and how Red Holzman had this unshakable philosophy that defense wins championships. And I think that the title of that chapter was See the Ball. See your man, see the ball. And for whatever reason, that struck me. And